I had never imagined that my life could unravel in the palace of Queen Alara, the matriarch of the Shiren Empire. My name is Kale, a pilot from the outer colonies of Lorith Prime, a desolate mining planet far from the glittering corridors of interstellar royalty. My world was one of dust storms and low-gravity tunnels, not silken banners and floating gardens suspended in anti-grav fields. But fate, or perhaps the whims of galactic politics, had brought me here. And now, the queen herself demanded I divorce her daughter, Princess Lyria. It began with a mission that seemed simple enough. I was contracted to escort a diplomatic envoy from Shiran to the neutral planet of Othries, a route fraught with smuggler raids and rogue star pirates. My ship, the Aetherian, was fast, reliable, and equipped with adaptive shielding, the perfect vessel for a solo pilot. When I arrived at the Shiren Palace, I assumed I'd deliver the princess safely, receive my credits, and leave. I had not anticipated her sudden request to marry me. Lyria was unlike anyone I had ever met. Her hair shimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes were the deep violet of nebulae. She had a way of speaking that commanded attention without raising her voice. She told me that her father's enemies had attempted to manipulate her into marrying a foreign prince, and she had no choice but to seek protection. She needed someone outside the political web, someone the queen wouldn't suspect of ulterior motives. And in an instant, our bond had deepened into something neither of us could name: love, trust, defiance. Our wedding had been private, in the lower gardens where the glowing flora emitted a soft violet light. Only a few attendants watched as Lyria whispered, "Kale, I choose you, not my crown, not the empire. Only you." That was the moment I realized my life had changed forever. I had not only become a husband but also a participant in a dangerous game of galactic power. 3 months after the wedding, the tension finally became tangible. Queen Alara summoned me to her council chamber, the gravity of her gaze heavier than any field I had piloted through. Her gown shimmered like starlight, and her presence alone made the air vibrate. "Kale," she said, her voice sharp yet controlled, "my daughter has disobeyed the Empire's will. She has married you, a human from a minor colony, disregarding alliances crucial to Shiren's security. Therefore," she paused, letting her words hang in the air like a suspended asteroid, "I order you to divorce her." I froze. The chamber felt suddenly smaller, walls pressing in. "Your Majesty," I began cautiously, I cannot. Lyria is my wife. I promised her, and I will keep that promise." Her eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand the consequences. Should you refuse, you will face the full wrath of the Empire. Your ship, your career, even your freedom, they are forfeit." I swallowed. "And yet," I said quietly, "she wouldn't let me go. And neither can I let her be forced into a life she didn't choose. If the Empire wishes to challenge us, they will have to challenge me." For a moment, Queen Alara stared at me, unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, she leaned back, her fingers steepled. "Very well," she said slowly, "perhaps we will test the strength of your bond. I am ordering you both to undergo the trial of Veritas on Xylar Prime. Only the pure of heart can survive its trials." The trial of Veritas was legendary, whispered in fear across the galaxy. It was said to reveal the deepest desires, the darkest fears, and the unspoken truths of any who entered. No couple had ever completed it without emerging changed or broken. Lyria and I had no choice. Compliance meant survival, refusal meant immediate exile, or worse. The journey to Xylar Prime was tense. Lyria held my hand tightly, her violet eyes reflecting both determination and worry. "Kale," she whispered, "whatever happens, we face it together." Her words steadied me. The planet was a living labyrinth, crystalline structures rising like frozen spires, shifting and reshaping with the slightest movement. The ground was semi-translucent, revealing glimmers of the sentient energy flowing beneath the surface. The air was thick with psychic resonance, amplifying thoughts and emotions. As soon as we stepped onto the planet, I felt my mind entwining with Lyria's, as if the planet itself demanded unity. The first trial was fear. Our minds were pulled into separate visions. Mine showed Lyria drowning in a void of swirling darkness, unable to reach me. Hers showed me captured and tortured, my body broken, my spirit crushed. The sensations were overwhelming, yet as I reached toward her image, I felt her countering the pull, a tether of love and trust holding us together. We called out to each other, our voices harmonizing, until the visions shattered like glass. The second trial was desire. The planet probed for selfish intentions, testing whether our love was true or merely convenience. We saw futures where we lived apart, ruling distant sectors, basking in comfort, yet utterly alone. The allure of power and independence was tempting, whispering that it was easier to survive without sacrifice. But when I looked at Lyria, I saw her mirrored hesitation, her silent choice to stay with me despite all that was offered. The temptation faded. The final trial was truth, the most terrifying. The planet reached into our deepest fears: betrayal, mortality, doubt. I saw visions of Lyria being taken from me by my own misjudgment, of her abandoning me to save her empire. She saw me leaving her for my own survival. But as we clung to each other, speaking the truths we feared most to the other, the illusions began to dissipate. At the climax, a voice echoed through the crystalline air, deep and omniscient. Only those whose bond cannot be severed may claim the heart of another. Lyria and I, hands entwined, stepped into the center of a glowing vortex. The planet's energy wrapped around us, and then, in an instant, it released us. We collapsed onto the translucent ground, breathless but alive. When we returned to the Shiren Palace, Queen Alara was waiting. Her expression was inscrutable, but her eyes betrayed a hint of grudging respect. "You have survived the trial of Veritas," she said. "Few would dare, and fewer would endure. Your bond, it is stronger than I anticipated." I bowed, exhaustion and relief mingling. "Thank you, Your Majesty. But our bond was never a question of endurance. It is love. Lyria chooses me, as I choose her." The Queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Perhaps you are right," she said. "And perhaps I underestimated the human capacity for loyalty and courage. But know this, choosing love over duty is not without consequence. The Empire may never fully accept it." Lyria stepped forward, her head held high. "Let them come," she said, her voice steady. "I will not betray Kale, and I will not be commanded to love or leave whom I do not wish to." In that moment, the Queen's expression softened further, almost imperceptibly. She turned and gestured for us to follow. "There is a council gathering on Marcellus Station. You will represent the Empire as a couple. Perhaps your example can teach them the meaning of true allegiance." Over the next months, our lives became a delicate balance of political maneuvering and private devotion. I, a human from the dusty tunnels of Lorith Prime, had become not just a husband to the princess, but a symbol of defiance and unity across the galaxy. Lyria never wavered, never allowed me to step away, and never let the Empire dictate her heart. One evening, as we watched the twin suns set over the floating gardens of the Shiren Palace, she leaned against me. "Kale," she said softly, "you could have left. You had every reason. The Queen's order was absolute. Yet you didn't. Why?" I looked at her, my voice gentle but certain. Because leaving would have been cowardice. Because you are not property and our bond is not negotiable. And because I paused, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Because you wouldn't let me go either. She smiled, and I knew she understood perfectly. In that smile was the strength that had carried us through fear, desire, and truth. The smile that had broken the Queen's expectations and perhaps, in a subtle but profound way, begun to change the galaxy itself. Years later, when the Empire came to terms with our union, I would recall the first time the Queen had ordered, "Divorce my daughter." At the time, it had seemed like the end of the world. Now, I understood it had been the beginning of a partnership, not just between two people, but between ideals, between love and duty, between courage and compassion. The Queen never forced us apart. But more importantly, she never again underestimated what a human and a Shiran princess could endure together. And as long as Lyria held my hand, as long as we faced the galaxy side by side, I knew that no order, no law, and no empire could ever undo the bond we had forged. Because in the end, the universe may demand obedience, but the heart always chooses its own path.